With Bayonetta's 1 and 2 selling over 3 million copies, you'd think that the main character's voice actress would have gotten a king's ransom to come back for the third game, but nope, apparently Platinum only offered her $4,000, so obviously she told him to go frig off, and not only did she do this publicly, but she also told fans to boycott the game to teach Platinum a lesson. But would fans shunning the game really solve the issue of voice actors being stiffed, or would it just kill the Bayonetta franchise altogether? Well, let's look at the pros and cons of boycotting Bayonetta 3 right after my award-winning intro.
Cameron, all the word. Cameron, danger. Oh no, it never fails. He'll take the clues and find the where's and why's and who's. Cameron, all the word. Cameron, danger. Cameron.
Okay, so no matter what I say, I'm bound to piss somebody off on a heated issue like this, but regardless on whether or not you're gonna buy the game, I think everybody could agree that $4,000 dues is definitely insulting to pay somebody to be the main character of a game in a franchise with over 3 million copies sold, which I guess would bring us to the first pro, being that a mass boycott would definitely get the message across to Platinum and every other company for that matter that fans want the real people behind the fictional characters to be treated better. You can complain on Twitter all you want about whatever you want, but the reality is, if something's making money, then it doesn't really matter how many nasty all-caps comments people leave on the internet. Companies are still gonna carry on business as usual, which is honestly the way that it should be, if you ask me. I know a lot of people may hate me for saying that, but if Bayonetta 3 is a success, then it can only possibly mean one of two things. Either people who said they'd boycott the game lied and bought it anyway, or that there really weren't that many people who cared enough to boycott it in the first place. And if less than a fraction of a percent are furious about something and over 99% of the fan base doesn't really care about all that much, then whatever the issue may be is in fact not a very big deal. I mean, if you buy Bayonetta 3, then you're not only gonna have to pay $60, but you're also gonna have to surrender your I'm Furious over the Hellena Taylor situation membership card to the cashier at Circuit City as well. I mean, sure, they might let you keep your I disagree with the standards and practices from the higher-ups at Platinum Games membership card, but if you buy Bayonetta 3, then you're pretty much admitting that you don't really care that much that Hellena Taylor was only offered $4,000, and that you find the game irresistible. No, you don't get to keep your Furious card if you buy a used copy either. The only way you get to keep it is if you pirate the game. But I mean, if enough people put their money where their mouths are, then Platinum Games would probably learn how important characters' original voices are to fans, and other companies would have to notice it too. But even if you are furious about Bayonetta 3, then just keep in mind that boycotting the game won't just hurt the higher-ups at Platinum like the CEO Johnny Platinum. You'll also be hurting everyone else who works there too, including the janitor Gunther, which makes this our first con. Make no mistake about it, $4,000 to record dialogue for a game like Bayonetta 3's the main character isn't even worth the labor alone. And yeah, I know there are some counter stories out there that claim that it was going to be $4,000 per session, but personally, I kind of think there's just Platinum floating rumors out there trying to fan the fires out a little bit. Like, yeah, if you're a geek, you'd probably say that you should just be happy getting paid $4,000 to do nothing but talk, but being a good voice actor is not something any old jabroni can just do, as proven by Capcom in the PS1 and Sega Saturn days.
You must recover all the energy immediately, Mega Man.
You were almost a jibble sandwich.
You're right.
Getting good at voice acting takes a lot of practice, and most importantly of all, you gotta have charisma, which is something that you either have or don't have, and Hellena Taylor's definitely the right fit for the voice of Bayonetta, if you ask me. I mean, seriously, the cutscenes from the first two games are a lot longer than most animated movies, not to mention all the grunts and one-liners that you hear during the regular gameplay that rack the workload up quite a bit. So yeah, for $4,000, I wouldn't even be up to doing all that work myself. You know, like, if I were allowed to do a bad job, then sure, it'd be worth it for me to read the lines off in one take just to make some easy money. And as a big video game fan with no aspirations to become a voice actor myself, I'd probably voice a major video game character if I ever got the chance just because it'd be funny. But I mean, if there were no comedic infamy involved, then I personally would absolutely not put the amount of effort into something for $4,000 that Hellena Taylor was expected to put into Bayonetta 3. Never mind how much more money Platinum was going to make off the game. However, despite the fact that Johnny Platinum is most likely a dick, even if we did hear his side of the story, I still don't think it's fair to punish everyone else who worked on the game and risk killing a franchise with a lot going for it. I mean, sure, maybe everybody else at Platinum's underpaid too, but even though it might seem noble to hurt the company financially, it's not like Platinum losing a bunch of money is going to lead to everybody getting paid more. Bayonetta 3 flopping could most likely just lead to layoffs instead of raises, and like, sure, sweatshops are really bad, but demolishing the buildings and setting the workers free would still do more bad than good, because now these people wouldn't have any money at all and still live in third world countries. And look, obviously changes need to be made, both with sweatshops and, I guess voice actors being underpaid now that we're getting back on topic. And to be honest, I don't really know exactly what needs to be done outside of the higher-ups to stop being dicks, but I am quite certain that hurting the company would really do more harm than good. Like, I'm sure I'm gonna get some heat with a lot of people for saying this, but I don't know, it just kind of rubs me the wrong way how the second part of Hellena Taylor's message was a malicious revenge plan. I totally get fighting for a good cause, and I think it's awesome that she told everyone just how badly she was being ripped off, just like many voice actors are these days, like the ones from the Jujutsu Kaisen movie only got paid a few $100s, despite the fact that the movie made over $20 million at the box office, never mind how much it's gonna end up making from streaming and home video and all that. But to consciously choose not to bring any of this up till a week before the game came out, followed up with a plan that could cost tons of hard-working innocent people their jobs, is just about as counterproductive as the time Happy Gilmore attacked Bob Barker instead of the guy who'd been heckling him all day. Her intent was clearly to hurt Platinum Games and Bayonetta 3, which I do understand, I really do, but it's just a really selfish way to go about it that could potentially make innocent, hardworking people suffer too. And at the end of the day, all the higher-ups at Platinum Games are still probably going to be rich if the company goes bankrupt, whereas everybody else who works there would just be frigged. However, they'd only suffer if the boycott were a success, which brings me to the second con, and that the game is most likely just going to succeed anyway. I have no doubts that some people will in fact boycott the game, even outside of those who weren't going to buy it in the first place but are taking the free boycott integrity points, but in the end, I'd be shocked if the boycott movement had any effect on the sales. In fact, it wouldn't even surprise me if all this free publicity reminding people the game exists ended up helping the sales. I know it might seem like a big deal when you see something trending on Twitter, but the reality is that only an extraordinarily small fraction of actual real-life people use that platform. And typically, the type of people who spend any significant length of time on there get pretty extreme whenever everybody can agree on something, regardless of how worthy of anger the thing actually is. I guess because it is kind of human nature to consume negativity, which is probably why people who spend a lot of time on Twitter suffer from crippling depression and need to constantly try to convince each other that you are not a burden. But like, if you're on Twitter all day trying to dogpile on easy targets, then you probably are a burden and should go outside and do something fun and stop being angry all the time. Don't get me wrong, usually mob outrage has a good foundation as to why they're mad at something in the first place, like Hellena Taylor being offered an insultingly low fee to do such a big job. I'm not even against everyone riding Johnny Platinum's ass to the point where he deactivates his Twitter after injuring his rectal inspecting, thumb blocking everybody. This is the guy you need to be given the business to over the voice of Bayonetta being disrespected. But the reality is, while the average person who isn't up to date on the gaming industry would agree that it's lame, most of them don't have any idea what's going on with this game, and even if you took the time to tell them, they're either going to buy the game or they're not, especially if they already pre-ordered it. I know that people like to tout the Bayonetta 3 issue as a reason as to why you should never pre-order a game, but to that I say,
How about no?
if I know I'm gonna buy a game, I always pre-order it, not because I like rewarding people for entertainment before it's completed. I get being against that, but usually pre-orders come with some kind of a physical bonus that you can immediately sell on eBay and essentially get like 20 to 40% of your money back, so sorry, I'm not gonna stop pre-ordering things. But anyway, even though Bayonetta 3 will probably end up being the best-selling game in the series, regardless of the attempted boycott movement, I'd still strongly recommend that you boycott the game if you really feel like it's the best way to solve the Hellena Taylor being underpaid problem. Again, I personally think a successful boycott does more harm than good, but I've been wrong before, so don't let me stop you if you truly believe that this will solve a very real problem that we could both agree exists, cause I was in the camp of people boycotting Pokemon Sword and Shield for being an obviously rushed cash grab with minimal effort and sorry excuses for why already existing Pokemon weren't included in the game. I'm not about to beat a horse that's been dead for years, but needless to say that the boycott of Pokemon Sword and Shield was a complete and utter failure given the success of those two games, but you know what? I'm still glad I did it, because despite how successful those games were, I know that they would have been even more successful had the initial concerns been addressed, and to this day, I'll still never play those two Pokemon games in particular. So by all means, speak with your wallet if you feel like even just pinching platinum will help get your message across, but just don't be disappointed if the game still ends up being a success is all. And also don't forget that if you boycott Bayonetta 3, then you kinda have to boycott pretty much everything that exists, which is actually our third con. I know this is the part where I'm supposed to have a second pro to balance things out, but I'm not gonna lie just for the sake of suspense, but I do feel like it's important to remind everybody that pros and cons aren't a point-based system. It only really needs one point to be a lot stronger than all the others, so I'm not really saying that sending video game companies a message to treat voice actors better isn't a great point. I'm just saying it's the only pro that comes out of boycotting Bayonetta 3 is all. If you feel like skipping Bayonetta 3 is worth it to send this message, then again, more power to you, but unfortunately, this is far from the only time in human history where somebody was treated unfairly. I mean, if you're in the boycott Bayonetta 3 camp, then you'd better not be wearing any Nikes or watching this video on any kind of an Apple product, and you damn sure better be an excellent tipper, but most importantly, you probably need to do some research on how much voice actors are getting paid from all the other video games that you play. I mean, to be honest, I haven't done this myself, but I'd bet you 50 bucks on a Slim Jim that you'd probably have to boycott a lot of other games as well, and that Hellena Taylor's lowball is probably not the only one in the industry. Maybe you'll feel like it was a step in the right direction to see a Bayonetta boycott spank platinum in the end, and maybe it would teach them a lesson. But going back to con number 2, the game is still most likely going to sell more than the first two did based on the Switch's install base, and the fact that Bayonetta 3's got a lot more buzz now than ever before. So the real question is, what are you going to do if boycotting Bayonetta 3 doesn't lead to the changes you wanted? Are you really going to have the grapefruits to boycott Popeye 2 or Tears of the Kingdom? Because I'm pretty sure there's voice actors involved in those games that probably aren't getting paid what they should. I mean, if a boycott didn't work for Sword and Shield or Bayonetta, then it damn sure ain't gonna work for Tears of the Kingdom or anything else for that matter. So while it may feel good knowing that you're putting a scratch in the armor of immortal game companies, is it really gonna be worth boycotting everything in existence? And you know what, frick it, I've got one more con while we're at it. What if a successful Bayonetta 3 boycott sends the wrong message? If something like Zelda or Mario underperforms, then Nintendo's gonna know something went wrong, but if the same thing happens to a somewhat niche franchise like Bayonetta, then Platinum and Nintendo could very easily assume that the sales were the result of people not being interested in the content itself. I know that calling the franchise somewhat niche might ruffle some feathers, but while 2 games selling 3.09 million copies can definitely be considered a success, it's not exactly lighting the world on fire enough to even land on the best-selling video game franchise's Wikipedia page. Like, honestly, not even close. I mean, hell, frickin' Lemmings got on there. Has anybody watching this video actually played one of those games? I'm sure you've heard of it, but like, have you actually played it for longer than 5 minutes, let alone actually bought a copy yourself? So, I'm sorry, but I find it hard to believe that 3.09 million copies could generate $450 million. And if I'm wrong, then show me where this number came from so I can apologize profusely and wear a degrading sign to make up for it, but until I see where 450 million came from, I just don't believe it. So, I think it hurts Hellena Taylor's integrity a little bit to exaggerate like that, which hurts the genuine issue that she's trying to bring to light. Yeah, I know the video game charts' 3.09 million estimate would only account for physical sales, but let's not forget that physical sales are shared with retailers, and that Sega published the first game, meaning that it went on sale for like $20 like 5 minutes after the game came out, because they like to do that for whatever reason. Not only do I question the 450 million number, but let's not forget that Hellena Taylor's only Bayonetta's voice for the English version of the game. Crazy that other languages exist, I know, but my point is that for Bayonetta 3 to fail, it would take a lot more than just the English speakers to boycott the game. Although I suppose if the game bombed in English-speaking countries but did great everywhere else, then it'd get the message across, but, like, I'm sure the actresses for all the other languages aren't being paid fairly either, but I don't think they'd want to be pressured into quitting out of protest after the work for the game's already done, mind you, or much worse, lose a source of income as a result of a boycott that was carried over from English-speaking fans, killing the game's success. Again, though, I think Hellena Taylor speaking up's great for voice actors everywhere, and I totally agree that something needs to be done. I just don't think that the solution she came up with is very well thought out, is all. It'd be like seeing a giant stinky poopy in the living room floor that everybody agrees is a problem, and then just lighting it on fire because that was the first suggestion someone came up with based on raw emotion. If you ask me, I don't have any solution to offer since I don't know the ins and outs of voice acting. But what I can tell you is that even though I don't think Hellena Taylor single-handedly generated 3.09 million sales all by herself, I still think she deserves astronomically more money than $4,000 to voice the title character with hours of dialogue. So I guess my solution would be to find somebody who does know the ins and outs of the industry, who isn't emotionally involved, to come up with a logical solution so that voice actors everywhere get paid fairly. If you got a better solution, then I'd genuinely love to see it in the comments, because, again, I really don't have any idea how to solve this very real problem. I just don't think boycotting Bayonetta 3 is going to solve anything, is all. But anyway, if you got a kick out of my incoherent rambling or disturbing imagery, though, then you should check out this video where I rank every character from Smash Ultimate from good to evil. But if you'll excuse me, though, I gotta go walk my snake. Later!